the pledge, please. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Welcome, everyone. This is Monday, October 16th. If you have any questions or concerns, come up to the microphone here, give us your name and address, and tell us what's on your mind. Ask for the roll call, please.
Mayor Cedar.
Here.
Councilmember Gottler.
Here.
Councilmember Koopa.
Here.
Councilmember Laporte.
Here.
Councilmember Paul.
Here.
Councilmember Volz.
Here.
Councilmember Watt.
Here.
All present.
Thank you. Number 4 is the consent agenda, City Council minutes of October 2nd, 2023, regular meeting, recommendation approved. The Housing Commission minutes of August 15th, 2023, meeting recommendation received, and the Cemetery Board of Trustees minutes of September 5th, 2023, recommendation received.
Motion to approve A through C as presented.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Order number 5, ordinances and resolutions. A, ordinance adoption 2304, cats. Mr. Bishop?
Okay. Ordinance number 2023-04, City of St. Clair. This is the County of St. Clair, Michigan. This is the second reading of an ordinance of the City of St. Clair to amend Chapter 10 Animals by revising Article 1, Section 4, limitations of number of dogs to add cats, and adding Article 3 as the ordinance known as cats. At our first reading, there was an amendment that was issued, and that can be found in the first main paragraph, and it was to amend second line, instead of 3 dogs and or 3 cats, just amend to and 3 cats. That amendment has been corrected in the ordinance as presented. That is the only change, and that is, for the second reading, that is the only change that was made.
All right, gentlemen, this was what we talked about a couple weeks ago.
One of the things I'm struggling with trying, and we were just talking through it before we got together, but is having the 3 dog, 3 cat, but you can have 3 and 3, which is now 6 animals. But you can't have 4 cats. So it's an odd mathematical.
I happened to look up the kennel law for the state of Michigan because that's part of you have to obtain a kennel license from the state. So section 10, 287.270, kennel defined as any establishment wherein or upon 3 or more dogs are confined and kept for sale. So isn't that superseding law going to limit our number to 3 regardless? You know, whatever number we pick, kenneling starts at 4 dogs for state law.
Is there anything in there for cats?
Cats are not mentioned in this, but I didn't read the entire act. We're talking about a $10 license for 10 dogs or less.
That's that to own or to operate a kennel? Get a kennel license?
Correct, to be defined as a kennel. 3 dogs or more on the premises. That's when you're a kennel. You need to have a kennel license. So,
Be stolen for a kennel? If you have a question, Bill, hold on until we get the motions and we'll bring you up here. All right. Thank
this
you.
act, again, I didn't read the whole thing. I don't see anything that states that it has to be zoned for a kennel. It says that the county treasurer or county animal control officer shall not issue a kennel license for a new kennel under provisions of this act unless the applicant furnishes an inspection certificate signed by the director of the Department of Agriculture. There's a whole process that goes into it. But, yeah, it is possible to house more than 3 on a location by obtaining a kennel license. Wish we had Downey here, but that's what I learned.
Does that hold true for the cats and the dogs?
That doesn't say anything about cats. Let me see. I can look it up. Michigan Kennel License, it doesn't have anything with... This is the Dog Act of 1919. Section 287.270.
So something new, huh?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I am sure that if we pass this tonight, there's going to be, code is going to give some input, we'll get input from people, This is a good, I think this is a good start, 3 and 3. If we have to tweak it, amend it in 5, 6 months, we have that prerogative to do that. But I do believe that there is some nuisance out there occurring, and I think it's imperative to us that we take at least some action to get this thing started before, well, not before, but knowing that if we need to amend or change or tweak it in the coming months or whatever, we can do that.
I agree. We do have a huge feral cat issue, and this gives us a leg to stand on as far as being able to get that enforced. And I think we should tweak it after a couple months, seeing how things go, if we need to.
We'll get feedback from our
For
code
sure.
guy, or from our people.
Right. The issue I have is I know there's a lot of people that have more than 3 cats, and they take care of them. And I've had to ask a few people even, how many cats do you have? Because I wasn't even aware of it, and they had more than 3, and I'm around them all the time, and I didn't even know there was more than that around. So the question comes down to, like, so why are we limiting a number beneath a threshold that's common, or don't have an answer, or, like, I agree we need to do something, but we're starting the bar lower, or picking an arbitrary number because it falls underneath a kenneling license, which is a different breed or animal entirely, but holding it to that standard. So if there was something in there that at least gave us direction on cats, that would be awesome. We'd be done. It now makes sense on why the city implemented the 3-dog limit when they did, because it followed the kenneling rule.
So what are you suggesting? You're saying put a limit in it, or do we write it in?
Right now,
It doesn't, I think it doesn't make sense to him because they can have no more than 3 dogs, but they can have no more than 6 animals. Why can't they have 6 dogs?
well, kenneling says you can't, but why couldn't you have 6
6
cats?
cats, right. We're allowing 6 animals on the premise, why don't we allow 6 cats? And that makes sense.
You're saying 6 total, one or the other.
Well, if the kennel law only allows 3, then we're saying we're allowing 6 animals on the premise between the 2 dogs and cats. If the state law only allows 3, then that means they can have up to 6 cats if so wish.
Now you're at 9 total animals.
No, 6.
Possibly.
If they have 2 dogs, they can only have 4 cats.
We're staying at 6,
Staying at 6.
like 3 and 3.
Except we're not limiting how many cats they can have,
Other than 6.
other than 6.
If you're gonna have 6 animals in a home,
So the total number of animals in a home not to exceed 6.
6, correct. But if they're not having any dogs, then the threshold on that number for pets within the city limits, if we're determining that as 6, then it's 6. 6
Yeah.
cats, 0 dog. 2 dog, 4 cat.
Neighbor A has 3 cats, but only because they're allowed to have 3 cats, and next door neighbor has 3 cats and 3 dogs. But neighbor A is going to get in trouble if they put a 4th animal in their house, which
Yeah.
could be a cat,
But they're maintaining them.
right?
So could you have 6 cats? No dogs?
6 cats, no dogs, or 5 cats and 1 dog.
So I guess it comes down, then, does that give us our code people the what they're
Still gives them the
looking for?
enforcement rule for anything more than 6 cats.
My thing, I'm just going to mention this, is we talk about this number of cats in a house that are being taken care of, and isn't the problem the feral cats, the ones that aren't being taken care of? Shouldn't we focus on that?
Can we define,
does this-
can we define
does
what a
this-
feral cat is?
Does this as written, right, but
I mean,
if
my
I have
dog
4
escapes
in
the
my
house,
house
is he a
that are
feral
totally
dog?
taken care of,
What's that?
it's not a feral cat problem, right? It's the number is not the problem, it's the care that's the problem. And does this, as written, help us in a feral cat problem? I don't see how our limitation of our homeowners on 3 and 3 or 6 and 0 and 1 does anything to affect that. I really don't. I think,
Well, if a house is harboring 12 cats because they've
but
got,
they're not being taken care of,
well, they've got food on the front porch,
right?
they're using the bathroom on the lawn, I think someone's got to pick it up.
So do we need a number to say these cats are not being taken care of the way they should be according to our ordinance? Or are we just going to say you have more than 3, so that's it, no matter how they're being cared for? Does that make sense?
It does, and that's, like, this is a complicated thing, because the state apparently doesn't have anything to help give us guidance or structure like they do on the dog side. So
Correct.
this is a very complicated thing.
I think if we're just trying to deal with the feral cats, we should stay out of the numbering for our residents.
If
Keep-
there's a good way to define what a feral or unkept cat is.
Yeah, how do we define that?
I mean, one of the ways that when I read this, and, you know, it goes over running at large are prohibited, right there, right? Just because the cat comes and feeds on your porch and it's running at large, right? Any cat that's running at large, harboring any cat or allowed to permit such a cat to run at large within the city of limits. It's unlawful for any person to do that, right? Section 10-39.
Even if you have one cat.
Even if you have one cat. If you do that with one cat or you do that with 25 cats, that's what houses our problem. Certain duties imposed on an owner. Having custody or control of a cat, right? That does it. Do you have control of a cat if it's coming to your house feeding once a day and then going off into the neighborhood for the rest of the time? No, you do not. Permit the cat to defecate on public property or private property without the consent of the property owner or occupant thereof. You do not have control of that cat. That is not, you are not in possession, ownership, taking care of that cat. That is not a cat that's running at large. Those are the sections right there that define for us what the feral cat problem is. That's how we can solve it, in my opinion. So I'm not in favor of a number because of that reason. I think what we're trying to solve is a problem that's further down the page.
Does section 1039 and section 1040 give our code enforcement officer and our police department authority to enforce? Because I think that's what we were looking for, is authority to enforce the actual problem at hand.
I think so.
Chief?
I thought we were gonna talk about chickens.
Oh,
We fixed those.
right now it's cats.
Pardon my dress. I just came from a junior high volleyball gym. Question.
Running at large prohibited. It shall be unlawful for any person owning, possessing, or harboring any cat to allow or permit such cat to run at large within the limits of the city. In section 10-40, certain duties to impose on owner. No person owning or having custody or control of a cat shall knowingly or through failure to exercise due care or control permit the cat to defecate on public property or private property without the consent of the property owner or the occupant thereof. And B, a person owning or having custody or control of a cat shall be responsible for the removal of any excrement eliminated by the cat, of such cat on public property or private property of another without consent of the property owner or occupant thereof. Is all that enforceable if we pass?
How do we
Can you
determine,
go in there and write them up a misdemeanor or no?
how do we determine control and custody? That's my question. With dogs, they have to be registered. I know who owns it, or if there's no registration on the dog, it goes to animal control. And if the owner wants to claim it, they get cited for it. Cats, there's no registration in the state. So we would have to determine who has control of it. I don't know. I mean,
If we had a limit on cats, then you can go in there and enforce, right? Obviously, there's more than 3 cats on the property. And then, obviously, these are feral but being taken care of by the homeowner.
right,
You can enforce an infraction, correct?
yes.
Is the inverse true if we made it 6 and they have 5 and 3 of them are running at large, can we still enforce on the 3 that they're not being controlled?
With sections 1039 and 1040.
I haven't read any of that. I haven't seen any of that, so I don't know.
Do we want to have them review it and come back and give us
For the
input?
record, I don't have any cats. I've just asked enough people that do for opinions.
Yeah. I don't
We
need,
do, if we're going to set the bar somewhere, I just would like to set a bar somewhere where we can actually work within and learn instead of having to back up or back out of something that we set the bar too hard.
Yeah.
So if we're setting a limit at 6 animals in a home, then I would be fine with setting the bar at 6 cats, and none of them can be running at large if that's the route that we're going to try and go. And if we got that number wrong at 6, then our 3 and 3 is wrong to go with it as well. So if we're going to set the bar somewhere and learn whether it's enforceable or not, is the county going to support it? Is it going to resolve a feral cat issue or not? It seems more of a more comfortable place to start based on some of the feedback.
Yeah, I think we're far less likely to penalize a responsible pet owner setting the number at 6 than we are at 3, right?
That is a question to the rest of the council.
I just feel like with the 3 limit, you're setting, we're not going to go around and count people's cats. You guys have better things to do. But if your neighbor looks in your window and sees 4 cats and they have a beef with you, all they have to do is call you guys or Tom or me
But don't
or
they have
you.
to achieve a search warrant? To walk into the house,
Well,
count the
you
cats?
can,
Realistically, yes, but let's be realistic here.
yeah.
We don't have a city magistrate, so I have to take this to district court. So I have to go to a courtroom that's dealing with domestics, assaults, burglaries, drunk
Cats.
drivings, and say, hey, I got a house with 4 cats in it. Can I get on your docket? I mean, honest, that's where we're at, so.
Yeah.
So Chief, my thought all along has been that if we went with 3 and 3 or 4 and 4, whatever, I'm not a proponent of us, okay, let's start going around town and going to people's houses and see how many cats they got. If a neighbor complains about some nuisance that, I read this article by the Department of Agriculture, and I never knew half of this stuff about what cats actually carry around with them. And and I know we have some places in town where are numerous cats running free, and you want to call it wild, whatever. But if a neighbor talks to their neighbor and says, look, you got 8, 9 cats sitting out there eating, they're all coming over my yard and doing things, and can you kind of get them under control? And they don't get any recourse. I think it's imperative of us that we need to be able to say, look, here's what we're going to do to try to make sure that we can alleviate that situation. My thing is, if you have 10 cats in your house and nobody ever knows it because you take care of them, we're not going to bother you.
Right.
But if somebody files a complaint, it's a health issue, and there are some definite health issues in this stuff, then I think it is imperative that we have something at least to go on.
Yeah, I mean, if someone's hoarding 20 cats and not keeping them in their house and they're not taking care of them, that's an issue. Also, I talked to the city superintendent. We have a pretty solid dog ordinance where they can't run loose. Well, we had one on North 4th, 6 months of work and 8 visits, physical visits, 4 citations before that dog was ordered to animal control. So that's a lot of man hours on an animal complaint. And it's going to be the same with cats. But I mean, if it's not safe for the community, that's one thing. If it's just this cat keeps wandering into my garden, how much man hours are we going to put into that? You know what I mean?
Exactly, yeah.
I mean, there are a couple of houses in town that have several cats or feed them, and they're animals. They'll go wherever they get fed. But I haven't read this ordinance word for word, so I don't know what it says. But
When does that become an animal control issue?
I don't know if animal controls deal with cats unless they're being neglected.
The animal control considers them a free-range animal. And so they only are activated to do something about it if it becomes a public safety concern.
In this case, if you have 10 cats running around outside defecating and doing all kinds of things, then it is, right?
They would consider that a public safety concern, then the county animal control would have to act.
So I don't think we should be dealing with the numbers at all. Like Councilman Volt said, this is something about care. I mean, if you have one child, you don't take care of them, called, right?
Right.
Doesn't matter if you have 8 kids or whatever, it's your care, the quality of care that you're giving to the kids or the animals. So I think we should throw the whole numbers out and just focus on the care.
And that's something that I think would be easier to articulate to a court as this is a public safety issue because of this, not because they have 4 cats.
So Chief, if you go out to a home, somebody calls you and says, look, my neighbor's feeding cats like crazy out over here. There's food on the front porch, and these cats are coming over here and doing stuff in my yard. And you look and you go, wow, there's like 9 cats over here. Are you saying then that it's easier to say, okay, you're not taking care of all of them, or any of them, or maybe you are taking care of them, you're harboring them, you're sheltering them, you're feeding them. I guess I'm trying to figure out, if we didn't have a number, how do we go to a place and say, well, you got 8 of them, but you're caring for 5, or how do we figure that out?
Can we create an ordinance that defines harbor and sheltering?
I think that's
Taking-
in
That's
this.
what's in here.
Taking, yeah, so.
Harboring,
Like
keeping
Mr.
your
Watts said,
harboring.
let's take the number out and make the issue harboring and sheltering and not caring for the animal enforceable by city code.
So if you've got 9 cats that you're harboring.
You got
and
one
sheltering-
cat that is out there with a bum eye and obviously disease, and the homeowner's taking care of it, call the police and they can enforce it. Then animal control would then have to come out and take care of it.
It sounds like it comes down to 2 questions. Do we, as a community, feel we need to have a number on domesticated pets, cats and dogs, because of many different reasons? Of just, is 9 too many? Because how can you manage 9 and they're running all over the place in a small space? That's one question. The second one is how do we impose in dealing with a animal or several animals that are not being taken care of? Sounds like the way the ordinance is written, whether it's a animal or several animals, this would give us the ability to address it to within the extent of the law and the extent of the support we would get. Sounds like a cumbersome process, regardless. So the other question is, we either strike the total number altogether, or we put a number in there that we feel as a total number limits the amount of domestic pets in the city for a reason of what seems healthy or fair in a community our size, based on our population and zoning and space and whatnot.
I just say, let's get it right, because I don't, for those of you that were around for the home barbershop thing, words were important, and let's make sure we get it right before we,
And just to add on to that, if we're going to look at that keeping or harboring cat interpretation, section 10-36, in my opinion, that is written to help us define the possession, shelter, harbor, keep. It's to define it for that number, right? It's written in that way. We would need to look at that for feeding at the house, like without lodging the cat, without, like some of those, I think we would need to add to that definition.
Do we need a no feeding the bears ordinance? We don't feed stray
maybe.
cats. If it's not your cat, don't feed it. Otherwise, you're in trouble, because it's creating a greater issue. I don't know. I'm just asking the question of, well, none of them are mine, but all 12 come to hang out at happy hour.
Exactly.
And that makes me think, I'm wondering, does the number 3 or 4, whatever, does that give our people that are trying to go out there and enforce this something to stand on, rather than saying, well, I got to come back in a couple of days to see if that same cat's back here again next time, or is this a whole new deal? Whole new bunch of cats?
When do you call animal control, chief? Do you do it?
not for cats, never have.
Never have. But when do you do it for dogs? I mean, just when you find them in the street running about?
If we find them and can't catch them, if we find them and don't want to put the muddy dog in the back seat of the patrol car,
Yeah.
if it bites somebody, we always contact them. See, the problem is, as long as the state considers a cat free range, which makes it tough, really tough.
We have a free range ordinance that limits anything?
Chickens.
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 So is it limit 3 on chickens or 0 on chickens?
I think it's 0.
It's 0. So the city has a 0 number for free
There's
range?
a number on chickens?
No, there's a general statement. There's different definitions of livestock and farm animals.
There's subcategories of free range?
Yes, there is not a separate ordinance for chickens, cats, dogs, pigs, cows, sheep.
Is it safe to say that this ordinance needs more work?
Yes.
Then I'd like to make a motion to table it.
Support.
What are you looking for as far as work?
I'd like to eliminate the number, and then I'd like to be a little bit more specific in the detail of harboring and possibly section 10-402.
Chief, would you be willing to call animal control on our behalf and see if other municipalities are doing things with feral cats with animal control?
Yeah.
That maybe we don't have a history with them, but Port Huron does, or,
Yeah.
yeah.
Did we write this ordinance, or did we borrow it from another city?
Well,
The ordinance is the dog ordinance with the word cat substituted.
Okay.
And I love cats and I love dogs, but, I'm okay with tabling it to make sure we get it as right as we possibly can, but when I read this thing from the Department of Agriculture, I had no idea. Here's what they say from the U.S. Department of Agriculture. Human health and safety, free-ranging and feral cats pose risks to public health and safety. They're the most common carriers of rabies on domestic animals. It is unclear how many free-ranging cats are currently vaccinated for rabies. Cats can transmit, and there's like, I can't even pronounce half these things. So I think we need to keep moving on this thing, and if it has to be rewritten, made more precise, I guess we have to do that. But I just hope we don't get bogged down in trying to figure out 3 cats, 3 dogs, 4 cats.
I don't think that's the issue. I think it's more or less what's enforceable and how we can enforce it, and making sure our language allows our code enforcement officer and our police department the ability to enforce it.
And I agree with that, Mitch. But the problem's going to be when our code guy goes out to a house and the people at the house say, my neighbor's got 10 cats, they're feeding them all day long, they're coming and going, carousing, and raising
And
hell.
then we should have an ordinance that should be able to enforce that.
So are we looking for a secondary motivator for people to correct the problem then? If, if they're not gonna come and collect the cats, if you call them, then is it the fees that we're hoping is going to motivate the homeowner or the person harboring the animal to stop doing it?
Well, there's,
I mean, if that's the
it's punishable
case,
up to a
then that's-
misdemeanor. That should be motivation enough. Right?
And then you have burden of proof of, is it them?
Take a picture of the big old bag of cat food on the porch.
That would do it.
Yeah.
All right, so you made the motion to table it?
Table it.
Did
I
anybody
supported it.
All right, so the motion made, supported, questions? All right, Mr. Cleveland, come on up. Thank you, Chief.
I didn't hear everything because you guys are hard to hear. Bill Clinton, 1374 South Riverside. So I got a cat in my yard that's not mine, that's defecating, eating at my trash. Who do I call?
Well, after this ordinance is approved, I would think you'd call the city.
I mean, do I call the chief? Do I
You'd call the
call
city, the code enforcement officer.
code
would have to
enforcer
go
and he
out
works full-time? I guess my question is if I call, he's part-time, correct, code enforcer? By the time he comes out, obviously the cat would be gone because he's down there on his own free will. So that's my question, who do I call to get somebody out there that there's proof that there's this cat in my yard?
I would start with City Hall. Thank you.
Chief? I mean, he's 24/7, right, Chief? I mean, that's my question. When there's a cat in my
There is a
yard,
non-emergency number, I would say that would be the number I would call, but
I'm just wondering how are we gonna go about, because I'm not, you're gonna call and say my neighbor's got 10 cats? I'm just curious,
Yep, thank you.
who do you get hold of when there's a cat in my yard? Because now you're saying that it's against the ordinance, right? For a stray cat come in my yard?
What's the point of the question, I guess?
My point is, question is, who do I call? And
City
it's
Hall.
gonna take a day, 2 days, 3 days to get out to, answer my complaint. By that time, the complaint's gone. So why should I call a code enforcer and say, there's a cat in my yard? He comes out 2 days later, he's gonna say, Mr. Cleveland, where's the cat? So ain't we wasting a lot of time?
Is that your point? that this
Well,
is
my
all a
point
waste
is,
of
he's
time?
gotta come in and investigate the complaint, right?
yeah. What are you getting at is our
Yeah,
question.
my
Like,
point
what-
is, what
My
is the point of
question
your
is-
question?
My question is, who do I call? If I call City Hall and he comes out 2-3 days later, he's gonna say, Mr. Cleveland, you call up, there's a cat in your yard. And obviously the cat's gone. I'm wasting that man's time, that man's time's getting wasted chasing cattails.
Yeah. A month ago, who would
When he
you have
could be
called?
out doing blight and other things like that, but he's gonna come to my house 3 days later and ask me about a cat that was in my yard.
How would you handle a dog?
Pardon me?
How would you handle a dog in the same situation?
How would you? If I called and said there's a dog in my yard, by the time I got there and the dog was gonna be gone, and
How
what
would
would
you
I
handle
do?
blight if the blight was picked up in a day later and the code
What's
enforcement?
that?
How would you handle blight if you called for a blight violation?
Well, should
The
he-
blight was taken care of the next day and the officer was out there 2 days later.
What's it, blight? Because blight don't walk away in 20
Well, it can
minutes.
be fixed.
Huh?
It can be fixed.
It can be fixed, you're correct.
Sure.
But
I
you're
mean, it's the
exactly
same
right.
scenario.
But
I mean-
90%. Okay, when I got a cat in my yard, I'll call City Hall.
thank you.
And have him come out that day.
Thanks.
Thank you. Anybody else?
What's that?
So call Mitch.
Oh, Mitch.
Rachel Cuffa, 603 Clinton. So I'm an attorney, and there are a lot of different cities that have ordinances that say harboring an animal. If you are going to feed an animal, that's the baseline for harboring. And then you can be fined just for feeding the animal. And I would encourage that. I mean, I'm somebody, I live on the corner across from Murphy's, and Murphy's gets a ton of cats. I mean, I have dead cats under my front porch every spring that my husband's going under and digging out because they've died in the winter there. And so that would be a bigger problem than one cat coming in. You know, I have a number of them, and I have a dog that keeps most of them out, but I get them in my yard almost nightly. But in terms of what you guys are considering for code purposes, I would encourage that anybody who feeds a cat and then lets it go, I mean, their cats are just going to continue to come back. And we did call animal control, and animal control connected us to SNAP, who came out and rescued some of them. So, I mean, I know they deal with it to a certain extent. And I'd argue that we don't have a feral dog problem because we deal with the dogs when they're loose. So it would be helpful to deal with the cats when they're loose. Less of a problem.
Thank you. Anybody else? All right. Motion made and supported the table. Would you call the roll on that, please?
Hall,
Yes.
Volz,
Yes.
Platt,
Yes.
Gottler,
Yes.
Ufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Motion carries.
All right, thank you. All right, B, Resolution 2334, support TAP grant application for Cox Road sidewalk addition.
On October 11th, MDOT had a requirement to submit any grants for the Transportation Alternative Program. We did. This was on behalf of East China School District, and they do support the installation of a sidewalk along Cox Road, where St. Clair High School is right now, and at the corner of Clinton Avenue. So the school district is willing to support monetarily, and we have contacted the other jurisdictions, which is St. Clair Township and the County Road Commission. We did sit down, and we had a meeting at City Hall discussing this very specific project. As of right now, we have relative estimates coming in at $295,000 and some change for total engineering estimate. There will be some additional costs, audiovisual recording, construction, reimbursable permit fees, things like that. So the participating cost, the total project cost, if we were to receive this grant, we have a 21% match requirement. So of a $299,300 project total, grant funds would cover $232,240 with a match requirement of $63,060. As of right now, this East China School District has verbally committed to funding. We will need a letter, more than a letter of support they've already submitted for the grant application. But this would require for East China School District to take it above their board, have things officially recognized, and then that grant then, if we do choose to receive that grant. As of right now, I think that our grant, I think it's going to score well. I think that we're going to be right up in the running for it. We check the boxes because of safety, and we also check the boxes for connecting pedestrian walkways that currently do not exist along Cox Road. So, with that being said, we should know here in the next couple of months where we stand. But as far as a grant application, it was submitted on time and received by MDOT.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I just need a motion to support the resolution
So
then.
we'll make that motion.
Support.
All right, motion made, support, questions.
I just want to say thank you, Quentin, for pushing this so hard. This has been something, you know, when you bring up this road, everybody says it should have been fixed 40 years ago. And here we are on the verge of getting it done the right way. Appreciate you pushing it so hard. Thank you.
All right, call the roll, please.
Before roll call, can you please amend your motion to change the amount that is in the resolution you received has a different amount that was just stated?
So with the correction of $63,060, was that the number?
Yes. Okay, and that motion was made and supported by whom?
That was supported by me.
Made by me.
Thank you. Volz,
Yes.
Watt,
Yes.
Gottler,
Yes.
Ufa,
Yes.
Laporte,
Yes.
Hall,
Yes.
Peter.
Yes.
Resolution adopted.
All right, thank you. Board of Reports Administration, Mr. Bushy, what do you got?
Nothing at this time.
Any questions for Mr. Bishop? Nothing.
Well, there's a lot of cats to think about. My mind's on cats.
All right, Mr. Downey's not with us tonight. Any city departments?
Can I have one, I was wondering, do we do an annual sidewalk walk review of the condition of our sidewalks in the city? Is that something we do
Yeah,
annually?
that is part of the preservation program. So sidewalks are not only being identified for replacement, but there's actually been a series of sidewalks that have been replaced.
Okay. So, because it's something you and I have talked about a couple times, and if we have concerns, should we just forward specific locations to you? Is that okay?
Yeah, directly to me, and then I'll have a conversation with DPW, and then they'll go out, they'll put it on the work schedule, and then they'll go out and inspect them.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, we'll go to D, authorities, boards, and commissions. Anybody?
Mayor Cedar, I had something under city
Oh, I'm
departments.
sorry, you're right, that's right.
That's okay. There's a special meeting of the Planning Commission Wednesday, October 18th at 7 PM regarding a special use request for 1100 South Kearney. Special use requests are recommended by Planning Commission, but the final approval does go before council. So if there is a recommendation from Planning Commission, that action item will be just added to a future city council agenda for consideration. And I just wanted to mention also that attendance at this Planning Commission meeting will not violate the OMA. So if all of you want to go, you are permitted to go. So just
Thank
wanted
you.
to state that publicly.
Thank you for clearing that up, thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
All right, no unfinished business, no new business, claims and accounts October 5 and 12, 2023.
Hearing no questions, Your Honor, I make a motion to approve as presented.
Support.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Now we'll go to number 10, this is public comment. Any non-agenda items? Anybody have anything tonight?
Bill Claimer, 1374 South Riverside. What's the schedule on getting something open on the bridge so we can start using them 29 again?
Actually, thanks, Bill. I appreciate you bringing that up. Received a notice today from NDOT that they're going to be switching to the other lane, and so by next Friday, they should have lane shifts, and we should actually be next Friday we should be seeing some type of different change. But they have to lay the rest of the concrete patchwork down, and we should be seeing something opened up. I think they had a deadline. Well, nobody's here at that meeting. They had a deadline that they were aiming for of mid-November.
A week from this Friday, we should be able to start.
We should see some change. But I'll be honest with you, every time I've been told that through MDOT, something comes up. And we do it, well, it is what it is. And weather dependent, and I think that we have rain in the forecast yet this weekend, next week.
I was just curious when we're going to be able to start crossing the bridge again.
Yes, and I want to bring something else up. Last meeting you mentioned about public safety, and you asked me to follow up about that. We actually have a fire truck stationed at the DPW shop, and so if there's any emergency or first response need on the south side of the bridge, there are emergency vehicles positioned to attend those emergencies.
I appreciate that.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Anybody else?
On the north side of the bridge, are they restriping?
There will be restriping.
They are going to restripe. They're not done with what
No.
they,
They'll get the south done and do it all at once.
and they're going to do it all at once. Okay.
Anybody else? Okay, we'll go to 11, mayor and council. Anybody on the council have anything? Annette, all the special events for Halloween downtown, where do they go find that? There's a ton of them.
Yeah, there's a lot going on still. So stclairontheriver.com on their calendar lists all the events in the community. So there's Halloween nights by the Chamber of Commerce. There's trunk or treats throughout the community. So stclairontheriver.com. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else?
Hearing nothing else, Your Honor, I make a motion to adjourn.
Support. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. Have a good night, everybody. Be safe out there.